voter registration exercise, the numbers and the rigging allegations and counter allegations. In studio we have former Bay Town Member of Parliament Peter Kaluma, Kikuyu MP Kimani Ichung'wah, and our resident analyst Edward Kisiangani. Thank you, gentlemen, for making time for us tonight. Talk to us 22422 and on Twitter using the hashtag Opinion Code. First, let's take a look at the figures as of Tuesday, the latest number of registered voters. Countrywide, the weekly target by IBC was 1.4 million new voters. As of Tuesday was 825,145. That was 58%, meaning 42% of those projected did not register. Right, and we'll look at some of the regions now. Northeastern, apparently, was the leading with 92% of those. The projected voters there was 24,000 registered. That represented 92%. Central Kenya followed 87%. Rift Valley 60%. Coast 58%. And then it was followed by Eastern 57%. Nyanza and Nairobi were at 48%. And Western, lastly, was at 43%. Those were the figures as per week 1. So first, and I'll start with you, Prof. Why do you think the IBC target is not being met, at least in as far as the first week is concerned?
Many reasons. First, there's the problem of propaganda, that a lot of issues are not yet resolved. Some people are waiting for some issues to be resolved. They think they still have a lot of time as they resolve, because some people within the political elite have claimed that there is rigging, unregistered people from other parts of the country are coming in. So in that case, there is some certainty that probably let's leave the government and the IBC to sort out this matter before we register. So that could be one reason, and it's totally propaganda, and it's not working very well for some groups.
Right.
The second reason why the registration is low is, and this is a damning indictment to people who are involved in the registration process, there is a crisis, the crisis of IDs in this country. The president has announced that the chiefs should do certain things. He has done his best, but I wonder whether his directives are being followed. There are parts of this country where acquisition of IDs is a terrible, difficult thing. Now, you know, IBC only comes in to deal with people who already have IDs. But the bigger problem is that we have a big chunk of Kenyans who don't have IDs. There are places that I can tell you, if you go to places near the border, it's just like majority of people in places like Malakisi, places like Luandani, as you go towards Ruahaha, where we have a major customs, one-stop customs office, which the president opened, that area, many people don't have IDs. And because they say when they go to places where they want to get IDs, they are told you are foreigners. And the identity crisis, whether they are Ugandans or Kenyans, there are still questions like that. So that is one of the reasons why. But as you come into the interior, the registration improves. But the border areas are terrible. So there are certain things that should be done in this case. On the part of government, especially the minister in charge of registration, they must speak with one voice and just say these rules of registration, getting people to get IDs, should be applied to everybody, and anybody who is not implementing the rules across the board must be liable for an election offense of sorts. But that's one side. But so there must be that voice. But although the government is doing its best, it's not doing very well. Now, the IBC, lastly, is this, Hussein. The IBC is registering, but you remember that during the first week, there were reports of failed equipment. So across the country, it depends on the impact, in which area it has the highest impact. But there are also failure of some equipment can be the reason why we are having this. But the last one, of course, is about people looking at this election. Some people looking at this election as useless because they have serious problems which have not been sorted out. Famine, for example, is going on in this country. People are sleeping without food. So they think that they should deal with the urgent problems, and maybe they will turn up the last day. So there are quite very many problems. It's a whole cuisine.
Peter Kaluma, and as you answer that question, why you think we're not meeting the target. In as far as week 1 is concerned, we still, I mean, the process is still going on. Why do you think the Mount Kenya region, and specifically perceived Jubilee strongholds, are doing better in terms of listing voters in as far as week 1 is concerned, against, perceived opposition strongholds?
Yes, thank you so much. Saying under the Constitution, all adult citizens are entitled to register to vote and are given political rights. If you look at our Constitution, Article 38. Now, in terms of acquisition of the voter's card or registration as a voter, there are some facilities you need. More particularly, you need ID cards. I want to agree with my brother for once. We seldom agree, because I believe he's a Marxist professor.
No, that is
yes, that whilst the president is shouting outside there that the chiefs ought to assist, the provincial administration at local levels ought to assist with the registration, that is being implemented more in some areas than others. I can tell you in Homa Bay Town constituency, for instance, while the president is shouting about people should be facilitated to register, you saw in the papers yesterday, for a whole week there were no materials, these things they call photo printing papers, to register people. And I can tell you, even the larger part of last year, most of the materials for registration were materials us as political leaders are helping in acquisition of. So there are those restrictions. When you go to a place like Homa Bay Town, I'm saying this is important for me, it is deeply cosmopolitan. We have people, for instance, of Somali background who settled in Homa Bay Town as early as 1950 something. People who speak, are born, within that region, mainly occupied by Luos. They speak mainly the Luo language. But there is this vetting process. So you get a large bulk of people who are truly citizens. They cannot register. To date, in a place like Homa Bay Town, the restrictions you are given to get ID register are just so many. Newly married women are still being required, as late as yesterday, to return to their homes of birth to get the documents of their fathers, most of whom are dead. Now that is one problem. So I want to say there is a bit of politics around the matter of registration, and my hope for once, and I think I'm going back tomorrow to see whether the directive the president has given to the chiefs now can work. I can tell you in Homa Bay Town by last week, the directive, contrary to what was being presented by Nkaiseri and others outside there, was that the chiefs ought not even to assist in distribution of IDs. So there is a bit of sabotage. But don't worry about numbers.
You're getting that from who or from where?
I can tell you, I'm the national government head of the constituency. You have situations where, I even call chiefs just for assessment.
You're the representative of the
yes,
people.
I'm the representative of the people. And I'm in the national government.
Yes.
I can tell you, even just getting a political leader like me to call the DCC, the chiefs to meet to know what is happening, you can't handle that.
I'm laughing at what Kalume is saying, that is the head of the national government at the sub-county level, forgetting that there is an assistant county commissioner, there is the DCCs who are actually representatives of the national government at that level. So therefore, is wishful thinking to think that
unless you don't understand the national government.
What is implying is that he's the representative of the people, but Parliament is also in the government.
It does not understand.
But the chiefs squarely fall under the DCC. And therefore, one of the things, and Hussein is good to put the matter into proper perspective. The targets that you're reading there and what we are weighing against the performance of last week by IEBC are not based on those people who are to acquire IDs now. Those targets were based on statistics of people who already have got identification, national ID cards, and therefore are required to be registered between now and the 14th. Of course, even as other new applicants for IDs register. Therefore, to answer your question, why is it that the Mount Kenya region and perceived Jubilee strongholds are doing better? Simply because you're not being lazy. You can hear the president is speaking just as I'm speaking with a hoarse voice. Because we've been out in the villages, combing the villages house by house. When we're doing that, the Honorable Kaluma is seated somewhere in Nairobi. This afternoon, I was somewhere having lunch in Kikuyu at 2:30. The house, as it opened at 2:30, I wasn't in the house. I was in the village. I was eating in a rural hotel somewhere in my village. And I could see the opposition side on the speaker's left was full of members. But I want to tell you, after having combed my villages up to 6 p.m. this evening, I dashed to Parliament. And when I got there were only 3 members of Parliament. One was the Honorable Junet Mohammed, the other was Millie Odhiambo, and Johanna Ngeno on the other side. Therefore, I want to tell you, I think these opposition members of parliament are simply not mobilizing their people. The second reason why their people are not registering is because they also have lost hope. They know this election is a foregone conclusion because they have seen and watched their leaders sell no agenda that the Kenyan people can buy. And therefore, when you find your leaders, the only thing they can talk about is Jubilee. You ask them something in the morning, Jubilee, in the evening, Jubilee.
You cannot complain. He's helping you.
Let me help him. Let me just finish to help him. Yeah, I want to finish by helping the Honorable Kaluma. Of course, it's not in my best interest that you get help. But maybe if your party leaders and yourselves as leaders of the people of your strongholds, if you had an agenda to sell to the Kenyan people, a believable agenda, then your people would have hope and have reason to register to vote for you and see you in government. But you have no alternative idea.
We still have a lot of ground to cover.
No, he doesn't have to respond. Hussein, today I refuse to play politics because we are talking about an issue that is very serious. Don't worry about the figures and the numbers. I want to beg you. Remember, there has been ongoing continuous voter registration exercise. Those numbers have not been uploaded. In places like Homa Bay Town constituency, you may not know it, but I addressed the media today and I was telling them, up to 3,000 and over people who are registered during the last mass voter registration exercise have not been uploaded into the system. And of course they are going to the stations with those confirmations of registration. They don't find themselves listed. So we are talking of challenges and challenges, but I'm saying beyond politics. Hussein, you need to review the media even last year. You remember the drive that was there, the chiefs, DCs and everybody, money is being placed there for people to register. What I'm saying is that it is not lack of numbers. Obviously there are cases where when things start, you know the attitude of Kenyans. It is too early to evaluate.
Yeah, that is why as of Tuesday.
I just wanted to suggest something. You guys, we are discussing a serious national issue. And we must give alternatives, even if we are in a quagmire. We know there have been problems about the registration process. Partly the problem is Parliament. You remember when you had a deal, you ended up in Parliament in September and you were quarreling on the streets, and then you ended up in Parliament and passed a raft of measures about the elections. And you even legislated on how IEBC should behave. One of the suggestions I made then was this: why don't we say that everybody who has a national ID already has a voter's card? This is one of the things that should have been done, because what we're doing is wasting time. You still need one legal document to get another legal document, which means you recognize the first legal document. So Parliament has let us down, and in fact most of these guys in Parliament should be voted out because they have never been come out with
but they're not in. So you both agree with what Prof is saying?
Yes.
I want to be
and then we forget about what? We forget about the idea of what? A voter's card, then an ID, then you produce an ID. We just need an ID.
Prof, because of time, there have been claims about rigging made by the opposition. All of the opposition leaders have talked about that, including Raila Odinga talking about the NIS registering Ethiopians and Ugandans. The president has refuted that. What do you make of that, going to into an election? What do you make of this?
It is a potentially explosive, and it can cause problems if indeed the National Intelligence Service is involved in that. I have no evidence, but if it is happening, it is treacherous. We cannot accept it as citizens if that's happening. But you know what? Some of the things that we really require to do, we're saying the National Intelligence Service is a very important institution in this country. Anybody who can bring in the national security system, and you say that it's colluding with foreigners, that is high treason. In fact, in some countries it's high treason. You must prove it. So, but we hope it is not true. If it is true, and there is a Kenyan who has brought in outsiders to vote, or even try to manipulate the elections, that Kenyan belongs to prison.
Okay, you're saying if there is evidence.
If there is evidence, they belong to prison.
Where is the evidence?
Hussein, you know what is bothering me is that when this issue was raised by Prime Minister Raila Odinga, the people who are responding to it are not IEBC.
Yeah, I'll come to that.
So
but
I'm least bothered. Let me not. I've said I don't want to go into politics today.
Okay. No, but
what I will tell you, Hussein,
because it is
it's
not about politics only. It's important because these claims are being made. We are going into an election.
Hussein, let me sort it out for you.
Okay.
Our team are mainly the border, counties and constituencies. What I would say is that if anybody anywhere imagines you can register a foreigner to come into the country to vote, you are wasting time. And any foreigner duped can come in will not return alive. You know the situation of Kenya during elections. So it's a waste of time. Let us not go discussing,
What do you mean? What do you mean?
It is an issue. I mean, if you bring Ugandans to vote in Homa Bay, will they return alive? You know what I'm talking about?
No, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what you're talking about.
So what I'm saying,
Honorable Kaluma, we're on national television.
What I'm saying,
we're on national television. This is an election year. I'm just asking you, what do you mean when you're saying
no foreigner registered or not will enter the country? If you imagine you will, don't come in.
Fine.
That is what I'm
But that is not what Hussein is asking. Hussein is asking a different question.
Why would you say those are not statements to make or remarks to make when you say returning alive?
No, but why?
You don't agree. No foreigner should come and vote in Kenya.
No. But then,
let me help.
Why would you vote in Kenya if you're not a Kenyan?
Nobody would allow that.
Remember,
Anyway.
Hussein, let me respond.
Where's the evidence?
Hussein, let me tell you. We have national values and principles of governance in Article 10. One of them is democracy, and it is saliently, spoken about there. We are a democratic country.
Okay.
And the duty of every citizen under Article 10 is to protect those national values and principles of governance. So I'm telling you on national television that anybody imagining a non-citizen of this country can participate in our democratic process is wasting time. That person will not.
Fine.
I think that is what I'm saying.
Okay, you've been challenged. You've been challenged in terms of evidence. When these claims are being made.
I'm not the one who made the claim.
Fine.
But Hussein, NIS has been involved in politics in this country.
Let me help you out.
As you help me, as you say you're going to help me. President Kenyatta is the one who said the opposition is being led by somebody who doesn't like peace. Because that person, talking about Raila Odinga, made these claims. Kenyatta, the president, refuted these claims. Shouldn't Kenyatta let the appropriate institutions deal with this? Is it in the president's place to decide whether these claims are true or false?
Let me tell you, Hussein.
And then shouldn't IBC be the ones responding, or is it the president responding?
Let me tell you, and before I come to what President Kenyatta ought to do or should not do, let me say you're asking the Honorable Kaluma a question that he's indeed trying to evade to answer. But indeed he's answered you. He's told you he's not the one who made those allegations. He has no evidence, and he truly believes.
I've not talked of lack of evidence.
He truly believes.
He said he's not the one who made the allegation.
He's not the one who made the allegation, and he also truly believes that since they are the ones on the border counties, it will not be possible for any foreigner to come into the country to register as a voter.
Not to register, to vote and go back.
To even vote and go back. So in essence, the Honorable Kaluma is telling you Raila Odinga is just playing games with the minds of Kenyans by purporting that there are foreigners who have even come in to register.
So then that is not.
Let me finish, Kaluma.
You'll respond, yes, sir.
The other thing, President Uhuru Kenyatta is the only person, mark my words, the only person who gets daily intelligence briefs from the Director General of NIS. And the last time I checked, the Major General Kameru was the director, not Raila Odinga. Therefore, for Raila Odinga to be purporting that there are people foreigners who are registering as Kenyans in this country, I mean, he is playing mind games with the people of Kenya. Just the same mind games, Hussein, that Raila, Kalonzo and the others are playing with Kenyans on the allegations of rigging. And why President let me answer the question you asked. Why President Uhuru Kenyatta is saying that Raila is someone who wants anarchy for this country? Indeed, I want to support the president, and I truly believe that Raila Odinga just is after anarchy in this country. No. Raila Odinga is one person who is ill prepared for elections this year.
That is according to you, first of all. And number two, we have. Number two, I would also ask you to show that evidence that you're saying. But the point is,
give me a chance. I'll show you that evidence.
My question was, Honorable Eshungwa, who is supposed to decide whether Raila Odinga is playing mind games or what he's saying is facts? Who is supposed to decide?
The person who gets daily intelligence briefs.
Do you know?
He does get those intelligence briefs. So he is in a position to know whether what is being said is mere political posturing.
Let me make an interjection.
Leading this country into anarchy, or it is a fact.
Hussein is asking an important constitutional question. What he's saying is, the president is a citizen, is a senior citizen of this country, but he is also a chief executive. The matter that we are discussing is not the matter of the chief executive. We have independent commissions. Actually, I find it a bit irritating that the president and his friends keep talking as if they are defending the IEBC. That is wrong. What the president... You know what is important is, once a claim like the one that came from Honorable Raila Odinga comes to the public limelight, the registration organ, which is mandated by the Constitution to do that, which is the IEBC, should call a press conference and answer professionally. But when now it comes and even say we do not have any link with the National Security Intelligence, but now when the president defends, you see what has been happening is that increasingly it's like the IEBC is hiding behind the executive. that is a bad impression. It might not be true.
We want to close this matter.
Can I say
you'll respond.
Yes.
You'll respond. No problem. But you said very well. You're not the ones who made. You're not the one personally who made those allegations. When you talked about
then have I answered you?
You've answered. When you talked about evidence, but Honorable Ishungwa, you agree with me that this is a matter that first IEBC should respond to, isn't it? Because you are both. I mean, the president, with all due respect to him,
don't put words in my mouth.
I'm asking you, with all due respect to the president, he is the president. But these are two sides now, three or more contestants in an election.
Actually,
it is IEBC that should come out and give Kenyans confidence whether there is going to be any rigging or not.
Hussein, I want to tell you, it's not just IEBC. Raila Odinga has members of parliament like the Honorable Kaluma who sit in the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee in parliament that oversights even the work being done probably by IEBC and all other investigative agencies, including NIS. Okay. Therefore, I want to tell you, the president did answer a political question that was being put by Raila Odinga merely for political posturing and for no other reason. Let me finish. IEBC, the president has not in any way, Hussein, stopped IEBC, EACC, Parliament, even the Honorable Kaluma, getting the evidence from Raila Odinga and bringing it before Parliament. But there's no evidence.
The Standard newspaper today had a headline saying, Uhuru wants Raila. The president needs to understand how far his powers go under the new constitution. I think in action and in words he's operating as if it is not a constitution or democracy. The president has no power to order the arrest anybody. The president must understand that when we are talking politics like now, by the way, it's just a politician like Kaluma, nobody gives a damn about what he says. It is in the interest of everybody to keep peace. We have institutions, we have the police, we have the national security apparatus where NIS falls. Let the president keep off. Let the commissions and these independent bodies answer to the country on this important issue.
Right. I want to ask an important question as we close. And this has been going on in the country for some weeks or months now. I'll be very practical. What is the number of voters that Jubilee plans to register or says? I mean, when you're doing the voter mobilization, I think you talked about 4 million
plus.
4 million plus. You talked of as the Code Coalition.
It is not.
They have no idea.
Hussein, it is not the duty of any political formation to register voters.
Okay.
That's a constitutional mandate of IEBC.
Perfect.
But IEBC has given the figure of 8 million.
But the Code Coalition, and that is what that is. Okay, then I guess this question should be answered by Prof. Because we'll go back and forth. But this is.
I think we're saying the political players have a role in mobilizing your supporters.
This is the concern. IEBC is talking about 6 million. Code Coalition, I don't remember how many they talked about in terms of numbers. 4 million or thereabout, that's what I read, I think. Yes. And Jubilee is talking about 4 million plus. If IEBC is targeting 6 million, and 4 million plus is Jubilee, or 4 million is Code, what does that mean, Prof?
How do you know they are Code or Jubilee?
That's what I'm coming to.
You see my point, and I've already made this point before. The thinking in the two, these guys are frivolous. When they work, they talk, you really think, you sympathize with both the Jubilee and the Code. And that's why I've always said that if we had an alternative, all these guys should be locked in one room and even be whipped, because they are so frivolous. They think that they are going to recruit what? Jubilee supporters. They also think that there are voters who have the tag called voters.
There's nothing like that.
People are just going to be registered as voters. So the story to believe is the one of IEBC, the target. And then how these people are going to vote is a different matter, because some people think. Let me finish this point.
I mean, does it show how sad the Kenyan politics is in terms of?
It is naive, and we keep listening to people who have no intellectual satisfaction. Let me tell you this, Hussein. IEBC has a target, and it has a right to have that target. But how these people are going to vote, including the ones some people are saying, like Jubilee has set up some SMS system to get the voters. You can tell me now, register because you are Jubilee. I say I am Jubilee. But when I arrive at the ballot place, I vote for a different person. Correct. Trump, I think
it's not very fair for Professor, who is a classroom politician, to say what he's saying of us politicians. Right. Because in my own constituency, there's nothing like that. You map your electoral area. So we map the country Kenya, and we know where are we selling, and our agenda is being listened to. And therefore, those people are more likely to vote for you.
Where do you think
you could be recruiting enemies? You could be recruiting enemies.
I want to tell you, if Prof stops heckling here, I want to tell you, from our mapping of this country Kenya, and the development projects that have been rolled out across the country, the transformative agenda that the Jubilee administration has been selling since 2013 is what makes us truly believe that even in counties like Homa Bay, there are people who will vote for us. People who never have to come to Kenyatta National Hospital for dialysis, and are doing it in Homa Bay.
Hussein, let me agree with Prof again. I think I'm agreeing with him so much today.
You never do.
The only body that can gauge how many Kenyans can register, and this is Kenyans, is the IEBC. Yes. You know, the thinking that people sit down and say Jubilee will register this and CORD will register this is going with the ethnic mindset that, for instance, if you are a Kikuyu, you will vote Jubilee. If you are a Kalenjin, you will vote. It never works that way.
Okay, we have.
But let me tell you, the last elections,
Hussein, that answers your question. Why there are
no voters called Jubilee voters.
There are no voters called
just Kenyan voters, and they will make a decision in August.
And the decision is you as the viewer.
You have the answer. Why their voter registration now is low.
Honorable Ishunga, Honorable Peter Kaluma, and Siagani Edward, our resident analyst, thank you so much all for making time for us. Tonight, it's your decision. You still have time until February 14th to register as a voter. Keep talking to us, 22422, on Twitter using the hashtag OpinionCourt. We're back after this.